Hello and welcome to the NDTV Dialogues. Today we have a very special guest, author Jhumpa Lahiri. But we also come to you at a very special venue, the Tollygunge Club, which is the setting for some of the most powerful scenes in her book, The Lowland. Thank you very much for being here, Jhumpa Lahiri, for being part of the Kolkata Literary Meet and being with us this morning. And thank you to my audience of members of the Tollygunge Club and young students. Thank you all very much. And Jhumpa Lahiri, I mentioned the venue, and it must be interesting for you as well. So when you're here at the Tollygunge Club this morning, do you remember the characters Subhash and Udayan? And when you actually, in a sense, they were almost, Tollygunge Club was almost a character in those scenes as well.
It was. It's one of the characters in the book, I would say, and very much represents one of the larger themes of the book. But I grew up driving past the club from early childhood. My father grew up very close by. So when we would come to Kolkata and go to my paternal grandparents' home, we would pass the club, we would pass the walls, and I was always very curious about what was on the other side. We never came here. My father's family was not involved with the club, but I was aware of it as a result of coming here over the years. And then the idea for the book, The Lowland, began out of this part of Kolkata. The original inspiration for the book is an incident, a killing that took place very, very close by to my paternal grandparents' home in the small neighborhood where they lived, just a 5 minutes walk from here. And so this episode in which a young man, two brothers actually were killed during the Naxalite years by the police, was what inspired me to write the book and to research this period. Mm-hmm. And so it all sort of started here. And I think I came to the club the first time maybe 7 years ago. That's not very long ago. I came for to have a drink with somebody, and then the last time I was here, that was 3 years ago. I spent a couple of nights here, mm-hmm. and walked around to get a sense of what was on the inside, because I was writing about people who lived very much on the outside, mm-hmm. of this place, and the tension between the life inside and the world outside, mm-hmm. which in a sense is the whole basis of the Naxalite period in general, that very disparity between the wealthy and the poor. And so it's wonderful to be here. It's wonderful to be back here, and the book has been published now in English for some months. It was just published yesterday in the Bengali edition. But I've been promoting the book since the fall, and I've been reading primarily from the opening pages of the book. And so I've repeatedly read the passages that are set in the Tolly Club when the two brothers climb over surreptitiously and spend a little bit of mm-hmm.
Clandestine
time here. So it really is mm-hmm. very wonderful to be here.
And of course, it's lovely how all the disparate strands tie up, because in the end, when Subhash actually kills a policeman as well, or is part of that killing. But in a sense, what's interesting is that this novel is also more political than your other work, because at least the Naxal movement, the expression of what was going around, is that something you chose consciously, or did you see it as part of the emotional landscape of the novel?
Well, as I said, because I heard about these young men being killed in my father's neighborhood. And because I myself had spent time in that neighborhood, because I myself, in an alternate universe, might have been raised in that neighborhood, it gave me the reaction I had when I heard about what was going on during those years, what was going on during the coming raids and houses being searched and young people being arrested, whether or not they were involved. This had a greater impact on me because, it's where my family is from. And even though I never lived here, it's not where I grew up. Nevertheless, I felt a connection to it. And so the story grew out of that. And I felt very ignorant, having been brought up in the United States and being born when I felt quite ignorant of the period, the Naxal period, and what was happening. On the other hand, it's sort of something I grew up with. I mean, even when I was a young girl, very young girl in America, I remember my parents and their friends, their Bengali friends who lived there, talking a lot about Naxalbari, the Naxalites, and trying to understand. I mean, I'm talking about 1970, 71, 72. They were trying to understand what was happening here because information, of course, back then was quite limited. And it wasn't something that they were seeing every day on the news, and they weren't reading it in the newspaper. So they were very cut off, but they were nevertheless extremely concerned about what was happening in their city, what was happening on their streets, what was happening to their family members. And so it's something I've grown up with for most of my conscious life. I also, I came back to Kolkata very frequently in the aftermath of the most intense years of the Naxalite period here in Calcutta. So I came in 72, I came in 73, I came in 75. Throughout the 70s I was coming. And I could sense, even as a child, the after effects of that violence. And people would talk about it. My relatives would talk about it. I have relatives who were involved in the movement, who were Naxalites. So, in that sense, it's a story I have personal ties to on many levels, and yet something I came to very fresh and, in a sense, very ignorant, of the reality of it. But I think it was an opportunity for me to learn a little piece of the history of the city, and especially as it impacted this area in Tollygunge, which was my father's world before he left India.
I'm going to take some questions from the audience as well, and lots of young students I know want to ask questions. Ria Banerjee from St. Paul's. Go ahead and ask your question.
Actually, it's not in context to the Lowland, but it's an honor asking you. I just want to ask that how successful do you think the movie, like on-screen adaptations of books in general are? Like your book has been made into a movie, but then how successful do you think it is? And do you think that an author can actually reconnect to the feelings he's writing with when he's seeing it on screen?
Well, thanks for your question. I was very, very pleased with the movie that Meera Nair made of the namesake. I had, when I finish a book, I cut my connection to it, and I feel almost indifferent toward it. At this point, I feel sort of indifferent already toward the Lowland, to be honest, because I just move forward with something new, and I have to cut the connection to the old. And so by the time Meera approached me to, wanting to work with the namesake, I was inside of another book already, and I said, by all means, take it and make what you want out of it. And I was, I had how I describe it is I had a sort of grandmother-like role in terms of the movie. I mean, I wasn't involved. I wasn't inside of it. I wasn't inside the creative process at all. It was her thing, and it was her team and her screenwriters. And I mean, film is, as you know, another language, another medium completely of expression and storytelling. And so I had a sort of, I had a very affectionate grandmotherly connection to the movie, but I felt very light, I think, as the grandparents must, in terms of the sense of responsibility and ownership that you feel toward your own children, and so it was really the best of both worlds, and I thought it was a lovely film. Really, I had a very emotional reaction to seeing it the first time. I burst into tears, and I think that what was so moving was, writing is such a lonely process, and I spend so much time creating alone, and there's very little collaboration in writing, at least for me, and so I felt that what Mira had done was a sort of collaboration across time, in that she had taken a story that I had imagined, and then she had taken it inside of her and created something very beautiful and done it in her way, and I felt, I feel as a result forever connected to her. So the reaction, the emotional reaction was really because of that. But I liked that she took the story and made it her own. I was interested in her own, in her interpretation, and not, a sort of paint-by-number attempt to recreate the book I had written. That didn't really interest me. She put her own signature on it, her own stamp, and her own vision, and in that sense, I think she gave the book another life. And I think it's very hard to make a successful film out of a movie and adhere very tightly to the book itself, because, as I said, there are two different languages, and film has certain certain things. Films can do certain things that novels and stories can't, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. And so the artist, the filmmaker, has to the writer, they take to their, they use what they have to their advantage, and so.
Again, Kolkata, so much a character in the namesake as well, in the Lowland. What about the Kolkata of today? When you look around, when you come here, when you visit, when you speak to people, because it is a very vibrant, changing city. In a sense, so much has changed in Kolkata. What do you find the differences about the Kolkata you write about and the Kolkata you see when you come here?
Well, it's changed enormously, I would say, in the past. I mean, I've been coming here since I was 2, mm-hmm. So, over 40 years now. It was very different. Of course, back then I was also seeing it as a child, which must have also informed my impressions. But I think, when I came back the last time, 3 years ago, I was really struck by the new, just all of the new development, the way that the city has expanded and grown out and grown up, and all of these things were new to me. Mm-hmm. And I think people are, I think there's, when we were young and we would come here, we would buy things in America to bring to our family members here that you really couldn't get here in those days. Mm-hmm. And now you can get everything here. It's silly to bring, it's still nice to bring gifts, but, last time I brought all of these things, and then I went out for a walk and I saw all of the things I had bought in New York for sale,
made in China,
on the street. Well, everything in America is made in China too, so it's all made in China. So that's changed. That's something that's changed. I think, it's a different world in general. People move around more. People fly around more. The media, television, all of these things. My childhood impressions, memories of Calcutta are, of a much more radically different environment compared to the one in which I was raised. The power would go out. There was no television, and then people started getting TVs, but the programming was for 2 hours a night or whatever. I mean, it was very different. One of the characters in the Lowland who leaves Calcutta in the early 70s and doesn't come back until 2012. I mean, she really is bewildered by the change, because I think if you think about that Calcutta and this Calcutta, there's a gulf. But as I said, I have been coming frequently, regularly throughout my life. So every time you see a little bit of change, change in terms of improvement, and also changes that perhaps one could perceive as certain things get lost along the way in the name of modernization, in the name of advancement.
Also, let's go across to Krishnendu Pal from Jadavpur University. Krishnendu, go ahead with your question. Hi.
Okay, my question to Ms. Lahiri is in 3 parts. The first one is in accordance to her essay, Intimate Alienation, Immigrant Fiction and Translation. You say that you have been referred to by a magazine as ABCD, American Born, Confused Desi. Okay. An allegation against you is that your narratives lack the active presence of the author.
In a sense, you've not been born in India. You've actually lived abroad your whole life, yet you've been a visitor here throughout. So, unlike many other Indian authors writing English who've actually perhaps been born here, spent their formative years, and then gone abroad, do you feel that same sense of identity or belonging to India as many other perhaps ABCDs would?
All my life I was searching for the place I belonged to in terms of a place. And it was a difficult search, because at the end of the search, I realized that there really is no one place I belong to. There was pressure throughout my life to feel a sense of connection, either to India or to America. But depending on where I was, I always felt on the outside. And in that sense, the way in which the Lowland opens with this idea of a wall, that you're curious about what's on the other side, it really represents, in some sense, my own life and my ongoing curiosity for what is on the other side, and a sort of attraction for what I'm not a part of. And so coming to India, on the one hand, I felt emotionally, it was extraordinary to be in the embrace of extended family, something I very much lacked growing up in America. Growing up in America was a much lonelier experience. My parents made, over the years, many, many friends, and at this point, they have an extended family, an alternative extended family also in America, a beautiful thing that they and their friends have built together over time. And in a sense, now I feel fortunate that I have not only my real extended family in Calcutta, but I also have a sort of created extended family in America. People I consider aunts, uncles, cousins in the same way that I have here. On the other hand, I really don't feel that there's any one place I belong to in the world. I always felt as a child that I belonged simply to my mother and father and my sister when she was born. And now I feel that I belong to my children, my husband, and I've always felt that I belonged to books, to literature, and to the community of other writers and artists. This was the place, metaphorical place, that I felt I was truly a citizen of. My sense of connection, geographical connection. I think I feel rooted in terms of the personal, and I feel rooted in terms of people. And I think people are really the key, right? I mean, I think the reason I was able to feel rooted to Calcutta when I came was because of that overwhelming familial embrace, and people just, accepting me and loving me, even though they barely knew me in reality and only saw me very infrequently every 2 or 3 years, but it didn't matter. And that's a very powerful feeling. And as I said, you know, in my childhood, I felt I belonged to my nuclear family who raised me, and now I feel I belong to the family I'm raising. And so wherever we go, I feel we try to feel at home.
I'd like to actually take that and throw it to the audience in a sense here, because I'm sure, and I know so many people I met here also make the point that they feel that your books belong to them in a sense, because Calcutta and now the Tollygunge Club is so much a part of it. So perhaps if any of you had a point to raise on that, it would be nice to hear that. Why don't you go ahead, ma'am? What do you feel about Jhumpa's books and the way Calcutta has mentioned them, or anybody who would like to pick that up perhaps? Yes, sure. I'll just get a mic to you. Sorry, you can just pass that mic. Yes.
I'm Aparajita Dat. I've been born and brought up in Kolkata, and we love your books, Jhumpa. They are so much a part of our lives. I mean, the descriptions that you give, whether in the Lowland, you know, I mean, a bit about, you know, Presidency College and our own college days. It's all reminiscent of that. But I'd like to thank you for giving us such beautiful lyrical descriptions of a city which we love, that's Kolkata. And whether you've come and gone, you're as much a Calcuttan as we are.
Thank you.